Hey guys, this is John from Sonic Drive Studio. Today I'm going to show you how to sound like John Petrucci from Dream Theater using Helix Native by Line 6 and OwnHammer impulse responses. I have 4 DI tracks loaded up. The first part here is the clean part, and down here we have a rhythm part. And over here we have a lead part going on, and then down here we have a 7-string rhythm part laid down. For the 6-string parts, the top 3 parts, I used my new Ibanez RG652. It has a mahogany body and a maple neck, and it features DiMarzio pickups, a tone zone in the bridge, and an Air Norton in the neck. For the 7-string guitar part, I used my RG752. It's also from the Prestige line. It has a swamp ash body and a maple neck, also with a maple fretboard. And that guitar features the DiMarzio PAF7 pickups. So the first thing that we're going to do is load up an IR loader, and I like to use NAD IR, which is a cool little plugin by Ignite Amps. The reason for doing this is basically because browsing IRs is easier this way, rather than doing it in Helix Native itself. But of course you can also load the IRs I use into Helix Native or in your Helix hardware processor. I'm going to set the quality to extreme and routing to dual mono. First I'm going to load up an impulse response by OwnHammer. And the reason for doing this right now is because when we're tweaking the amp, we want it to sound like we're tweaking the amp through an actual speaker, of course. So this is the top of the OwnHammer folder. I'm going to go to the Wave 200 millisecond folder and click on the 48,000 Hertz folder. Those are the files that I basically always use in my DAW. And for the clean tones, we're going to go to the 2x12 Recto. And this pack has recently been upgraded to a 6-pack, which you can buy in the OwnHammer store. It features all sorts of cool speaker options and blends as well. And in this case, we're going to go for the V60 speaker option. Going to head over to the Quick Start folder and then select the modern file in here. I think this is basically a blend between a 57 and a 421 mic. And I know that John has used that mic combination in the past. So this will be a fitting sound. We're not going to do any tweaking over here anymore. And now we're going to load up Helix Native. Then we're going to open Helix Native, and we're going to go to the user folder and click on new preset 1, which is an empty preset. We don't need a noise gate for the clean tones. So now we're going to load an amp model, and we're going to use the Cali 4 Rhythm 1 channel, which is based on a rhythm channel of a Mesa Boogie Mark IV amp. This will get you very close to the John Petrucci sound. I'm already going to set some basic amp settings. Set drive to about 5, set bass to about 5.2, turn mids down to about 4.4-ish, leave the treble at the default position, which is 6.1. I'm going to raise the presence a little bit, let's say to 6.6, raise the channel volume to 10, and then down here we're going to set a subtle V in the graphical equalizer just to scoop out some mids. Now let's take a listen to how this sounds. Okay, so we have a cool, nice, basic, clean sound going on here, but we're going to need to enhance it a little bit more to make it sound like John Petrucci. So one of the things that John likes to do live is he has 2 speaker cabinets hooked up, I think 2 amps as well, and one amp has a 8 millisecond delay on it with no repeats, and this gives a very broad stereo sound, and we're going to do that exact same thing here. We're going to open up the delays here. A mono delay is fine. Click on Simple Delay, set the time to 8 milliseconds, feedback to 0, mix to 100%, and then drag this into a loop. Make a little bit more room here. We're going to set it to split AB, and over here we're going to pan A all the way to the right and pan B all the way to the left. Now listen to what this does. And when I turn it off, it sounds like this again. So that's regular mono, but when we enable the delay, It gets a lot wider and more stereo sounding. Great. Now to give it some air and space, we're also going to add a stereo delay here. Just going to use the ping pong delay, and we're just going to lower the mix a little bit to about 30%. Let's take a listen. Yeah, that sounds great. It makes it nice and ambient. Then what we're going to do is load a compressor block on the beginning of the chain, and we're going to use the red squeeze model, turn down the level to about 1.8, and turn down the sensitivity to about 1.9. And then we're going to turn down the mix to about 30. This will give the guitar some gentle compression, just to even out the dynamics. Let's check how that sounds. Great. So when I turn it on, you can really hear that the dynamics of the guitar get a bit more squished and that it sounds bigger overall. Then we're also going to add a chorus block, and we're going to use the simple chorus right here. Going to set speed a little bit higher. Let's set it to 2.9. Lower the depth quite a bit to about 4.8. We're going to set the wave shape to sine. Raise tone to 6. And lower the mix to about 35%. Let's take a listen. Yeah, so that sounds pretty good to me, and it does really sound like the John Petrucci clean sound. Then what I'm going to do is copy the settings for the IR loader, and I'm going to head over to the rhythm channel here. Also load up that plugin and paste the settings. So we have a good starting point. So for the rhythm tone, I'm going to use another IR pack, and also from OwnHammer, this pack that I want to use is the Recto 4x12. So we're going to use a bit more of a bigger cab. And just as with the OwnHammer 2x12 Recto, this cab has been featured in the new 6-pack series. So you can buy this cab with 6 speakers and a bunch of speaker mixes. And I think for this rhythm tone, we're going to use the V70 option. And this one has 2 voicings, and we're going to go with the V70B speaker. And again, I'm going to the Quick Start folder, and I'm selecting the Modern 5 file. So this is going to give us similar results to the clean tones, but with a bit of a bigger sound for the rhythm guitars. And again, we're going to open an empty preset. This time we are going to enable the noise gate, lower the threshold to about -70 dBs, and turn the decay all the way down. Then over here we're going to open an amp, and this time we're going to use the Cali 4 lead amp model. Let's take a listen to how this sounds with the default settings. So it sounds cool, but it's definitely not there yet. So we're going to need to do some tweaking to get it to sound closer. So first thing I'm going to do is turn up the gain here. Turn it up quite a bit for both of the options. So I've set the lead gain to 8.7 and the lead drive to 8.5. Now we're going to lower the bass. And with these amps you can lower them quite a bit. Let's take a listen to how that sounds. so it makes the low end a bit tighter. Now another important thing that we need to do with this amp is lower the master volume, and we're also going to lower this quite a bit. The default settings for this amp are quite high, so we're going to need to lower this to get a clearer, more defined and more scooped sound. So we're lowering this to about 4.6. Then what I'm going to do is turn up the sag just a little bit. And then introduce the classic metal V in the graphical equalizer here. I'm going to set the bass frequency to 0. Lower the treble frequency to about 0. And we're going to lower the middle slider to about -6. Or let's make it -7 actually. And then we're going to lower the lower mid slider here as well as the upper mid slider. And to compensate for these settings, I'm going to need to turn up the channel volume as well. And we're going to turn it all the way up to 10. Now while we listen, I'm going to do some more fine tuning and then we should be set. Sounds about right to me. Now just as with the clean tone, we're going to add a delay here. Of course, you can also choose to not do this or only do this with live performances. And in the studio, just do it mono and double your parts. So we're going to lower the time again to 8 milliseconds. Set feedback to 0, mix to 100%. And make an effects loop here. Set it to split AB, and over here again, pan these to the left and the right. Let's take a listen. Great. That should be a great starting point to get that Petrucci Mesa Boogie rhythm sound. Now what we're going to do for the leads is just copy these settings. This should give us a great starting point. So I've loaded up the exact same settings, but this time on the lead channel. And the first thing that we're going to do is see if we can find an IR with a bit more of a warm mid-range. So in this case, let's go back to the Recto folder and maybe try the V70 with the Schultz mix. This should give us some great results. Great. Let's go back to the amp here and tweak this a little bit more. Maybe give it some more gain and add back in a little bit more mids. Sounds good. Now we're going to add a stereo ping pong delay to give it a bit more space. Just gonna use the default settings and maybe lower the mix a little bit here. So use your ears and adjust this to taste. I just added in quite a bit more gain and also added a bit more mids back in. Sounds great to me. It has that really buttery, chocolatey John Petrucci lead tone. So Helix Native and OwnHammer IRs work together very well, as you can hear. And now for the 7-string guitar part, we're just going to copy the settings from the rhythm guitar and do the same thing for the impulse response. However, let's try another impulse response, also from the Recto 4x12. And this time I want a tone with a little bit more bite and clarity. So we're going to go for the V60 speaker option. And again, choose the modern mix from the Quick Start folder. Let's take a listen. That already sounds really good. Now I'm going to make some very small tweaks to make this guitar work a little bit better with the amp. Let's go ahead. So I'm lowering the bass here to give the guitar a bit more clarity. This works well with the very low tunings, and we're in B right now, so turning this down can already really help. Yeah, that also sounds really great to me. Again, it really has that Petrucci sound going on. Let's listen to all the parts one more time. Yeah, I love how that clean tone turned out with that 2x12 Recto cabinet. Yeah, that sounds great. I love that MIDI crunch. Okay, let's take a listen to a quick section of the lead part here. I also really enjoy how that came out. And then finally, the 7-string guitar riff. Okay folks, that's all for this tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed this video and I hope that you'll get some great tones. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe for more content and follow us on facebook.com/sonicdrivestudio to stay up to date. Thanks a lot for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!